If compelled to begin again relying solely on my voice, I would still recognize myself as wealthy, because speech itself is genuine capital. The empty page would not intimidate me. Neither scarcity of tools, acquaintances, nor social standing would unsettle me. Rather than searching outside, my attention would turn within. I retain an insight many overlook. When the voice aligns with truth, it functions as treasury credit line and conduit of unfailing provision. Abundance is not defined by employment markets or a signed check. It is established by the decree. A consecrated decree uttered in faith opens the vaults of heaven. I would articulate what the soul recalls, though the world forgets. The word is actual substance. Spirit manifests as substance, and the unseen holds a solidity surpassing any currency. I would dwell amid the indistinct and speak until it becomes abundant. I would bless quiet and transmute it into gold. I am no mendicant of life, nor indebted to wealth. I am the voice that calls provision, and by speaking, I would build the dwelling, summon money, draw favor, increase the bread, and stock the granaries. Even with nothing left but my voice, I would regard myself as affluent, for speech is treasure, and decree is the portal. I would commence anew, unafraid, upheld by spiritual authority. The law proclaims wealth does not germinate from toil, from hoarded hours, or from clever strategies. It arises from the prosperity law, an irrevocable, ever-present divine principle, asserting that all spiritual provision and its outward forms originate in consciousness. Prosperity does not proceed from external circumstances. It is conferred by the inner word. This is law. Whatever is inscribed in the subconscious must surface in ordinary experience. Many remain in want not through divine absence, but because their speech opposes God. They announce scarcity, idolize delay, and defer to fear, while the prosperity law ignores appearances. Empty pockets, shrinking balances, quiet clients, or a stagnant market do not alter it. The law inquires only this: what do you speak, envision, and affirm as true? Speech forms the mold. Provision is the molten gold that occupies it. Let the faint declare, I am strong. This is not literary flourish, but spiritual precision. It requires that despite shaken hands, shut doors, and accounts whispering falsehoods, you assert, I am strong. And likewise, I am prosperous. Declare that divine provision is never delayed. Speak Spirit's truth rather than sensory appearances. Your voice is the lever lifting the world's weight from you. Words synchronized with spiritual law do not wait for evidence. They create it. If you hold fast to this utterance, voicing it not as wish, but as a blade of truth, repeating it until a new pattern is etched into mind, body, and vitality, then funds will come. Resources will emerge. Doors will open, enchantments will break, and your life will unveil what has always been yours. Divine abundance spoken into form by your steadfast word. Let us now descend further, not into spoken phrases, but into the tacit loyalties beneath them, the covert agreements with hardship you never intentionally accepted, yet long upheld. For even as you affirm in faith, God is my unfailing supply, and great sums of money come to me now under grace, and in perfect ways certain inner strata still oppose. Within you may lie a portion numbed by memories and inherited shame, shrinking back feeling culpable at the prospect of ample resources, judging itself undeserving of ease, fearing to receive without strain or sacrifice. This is merely counterfeit humility, a tutored poverty disguised as virtue, a spiritual fog that must disperse for light to pass again. You must retrain not only deliberate speech, but also hidden allegiances. Expose and dissolve the emotional pact, with suffering the reflex of viewing yourself as perpetual struggler. The persona that boasts of triumphing through exertion and earns praise for subsisting on little must be surrendered. The archaic self-portrait of a beggar deeming himself holy for refusing his inheritance must be identified accurately. Distortion, bewitchment, illusion. Righteousness is not achieved by deprivation, nor sanctity by suffering. Virtue is not the refusal of abundance written into your essence before birth. There is no reward in scarcity, no honor in bare survival. The unseen pact must be broken, the one murmuring that riches and spirit are incompatible, that wealth defiles, that ease betrays ethics. That is the beggar's gospel, and it is not of God. The true gospel proclaims, "Beloved, I desire that you prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers." It also affirms, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." And again, "Ask, and it shall be given to you." Your destiny is not servitude to money, but stewardship over it. You are not summoned to chase wealth, but to decree, invite, and receive it as the natural outflow of alignment with divine order. Confront honestly the emotional ties that tether you to hardship. Do you dread criticism? Do you fear separation from those who denounce prosperity? Do you fear your own indwelling power? It is time to unplug from that matrix and annul the inner covenant. The method is this repetition and rhythm, the fresh word voiced until it vibrates through every cell and replaces the old program. Speak it until falsehood collapses. Speak it until your body no longer tenses at the thought of abundance. Persist until you envision yourself prosperous, calm, and radiant, released from guilt, shame, and opposition. Continue until this forms your new tranquility, your refreshed stillness, your authentic identity. God is my unfailing supply, and great sums of money come to me now, under grace and in perfect ways. This is not a casual saying, it is a sword-slicing ancestral chains of want, a stairway out of inherited shame, a thunderbolt that fractures illusion and parts the heavens. Speak and be remade. Spoken language forms a bridge, joining spirit with matter. It is the golden filament spanning the gulf of the unseen, the sacred line that pulls the eternal into sight. This is the tool entrusted to humans able to command harmony between the invisible and the visible. First comes the verb, then the shape. First the declaration, then the appearance. Before the check, the blessing. Creation has always advanced in this order. God did not craft the world manually. He declared, "Let there be light," and light responded. He spoke the heavens, the waters, the earth, the fruit-bearing trees, the stars, the animals of the field, and the human being himself. All things issued from the divine voice, and that power abides in you. Being made in the Creator's image and likeness, you were fashioned not to be a spectator, but a declarer, not to report what is, but to summon what shall be. If you delay your word until proof appears, until funds, openings, or outcomes arrive, you are not yet living by spiritual law. You are still honoring appearances and kneeling to evidence rather than authority. Yet I assert this true authority rests with the one who voices truth from the unseen and plants his feet on what eyes cannot detect. Authority inhabits the person who says, "It is done." Even in a barren room, you must speak prior to sight pronounce, before safety decree ahead of comprehension. The word is not a reaction, but a directive, not an outcome, but a cause, not evidence of change, but the wellspring from which change flows. The tongue is more than a tool for expression. It is a sacred lever that shifts reality. If you intend to govern substance, disclose divine wealth, and serve as a conduit of everlasting provision, do not start with pleading, trembling, or delay. Start with speech. Start with the word and keep to it. This is the law of expectation, a spiritual rule rooted not in fretful longing or unstable optimism, but in the assurance that whatever is spoken in faith comes forth by divine statute. This certainty is woven into the fabric of consciousness itself. You ready yourself for what you expect, and what you ready, you ultimately receive. Expectation is not a mood, it is a template. It is the unseen framework that receives the outpouring of formless spirit. Your words, unspoken convictions, and inward stance cast this template. The law of expectation does not heed a timid, hopefully, nor does it stir for nervous cheerfulness or hurried mantras. It engages when speech takes the form of decree, when your word functions as law within your domain, when your entire being relaxes into the assurance that what you uttered is already in motion. Spirit has registered it and the law is operative. What then courses in to occupy this form? Not rock, not bullion, not banknotes. It is spiritual power, divine intelligence, wealth in its finest, highest frequency, poised to assume shape according to the pattern your inward word provides. You are not idly waiting for money. You are sculpting the conduits through which it shows up. You are not hoping prosperity will ambush you. You order it to conform to your expectation. We recognize this as law because it is written, "You shall decree a thing, and it shall be established." This is no mere figure of speech, but spiritual science, divine calculus, a metaphysical transaction guaranteed by God's own word. Yet be clear, a decree is not a timid wish, a courteous petition, or a languid sentence. A decree is a command issued by the soul, aligned with the infinite, voiced with undivided faith, cadence, and certainty, with the assurance that once spoken, it stands accomplished. Visibility may lag, but completion is present. The law of expectation does not await outcomes, it authors them. Your task is to shape the mold through your words, beliefs, and sense of what cannot fail. Expect delay, and delay arrives. Expect scarcity, and scarcity seeks you. Expect abundance, and abundance accelerates toward you. The potency of this law is not in fleeting belief, but in steady alignment. You do not speak and then vacillate. You speak again until expectancy feels native. You speak again until doubt exits your space. You speak again until your words echo in your marrow hum, in your gate ring, in your voice thread through your thinking, and ride upon your breath. Great sums of money come to me now, under grace in perfect ways. This is not mere suggestion. It is decree divine statute, and it must manifest in your affairs. Speak and watch it appear. You are required to speak prior to any sense of reality taking shape. Give voice before your eyes, witness what your spirit already holds as knowledge. Speak with the assurance of one who refuses to depend on outer endorsements. The external realm carries no true authority. It merely mirrors what has already been pronounced within the unseen. Yet many postpone their declaration, lingering for omens and warranties, insisting the world verify it first. I insist the instant you demand proof before speech, you abdicate authority and yield to surfaces proclaiming that illusion outweighs truth. Those who move in spiritual authority address the emptiness and call forth what is absent as though present. They affirm, "I am prosperous," even when invoices mount. They state, It is done in advance of any indicator. They summon, "Come now," with the poise of sovereignty rather than the tremor of petition. We do not live by what seems, we live by faith, and faith demands articulation. It must animate the tongue before it reshapes circumstances. You cannot postpone your word until confidence arrives. You cannot delay until it looks reasonable. Keep speaking until spoken truth condenses into fact. And what words should fill your mouth declare? Everything I speak in faith must manifest. It is the law. Do not utter this as hesitation, nor as fretful petition, nor as thin comfort, but as a sovereign decree from one convinced that his word never returns empty. Persist until each sentence feels like a brick you can grasp, until tangible substance gathers with every utterance. Say it while you walk, while you transact, and before you close your eyes to rest. Say it when fear prowls like wolves. Raise your voice above their chorus, for fear fattens on silence, yet evaporates before a resolute word. Faith is neither brittle, nor tender, nor indecisive. Faith articulates, and what it articulates takes form. When you state, "Great sums of money come to me now under grace," in perfect ways, you are not inventing out of nothing. You are calling forth what already resides upon the spiritual level. By divine authority, you translate the unseen into the seen. Should you speak steadily without hesitation, without begging, without delay, until your environment shifts, your identity settles, and your interior brims, you will cease pursuing what is already your inheritance. At that point, abundance will locate you, keep pace with you, and know your tone, since your speech has become your sign, your affidavit, your evidence, your wealth itself. Speak ahead of sight. Move as one already endowed. Decree until what you say and what you see align. Persist in speaking, for this is not sorcery, it is compliance with law, and that law does not fail. Here commences holy labor cleansing within unweaving worn impressions day by day, and quietly rebuilding the inner sanctuary according to the blueprint of divine prosperity. For even amid courageous speech and steadfast affirmations, the concealed rooms of the mind may harbor silhouettes of scarcity, reverberations of unworthiness, leftovers of former doctrines that claimed prosperity belonged to others, that money required strain, that abundance was exceptional, that wealth carried peril. These are not mere passing notions. They are inner pictures, and pictures wield force. They operate as quiet architects of experience, forming behavior's tones of being, anticipations, and therefore outcomes. Thus, your speech cannot be squandered into empty space. It must be planted inside, exchanging picture for picture, scene for scene, and thought for thought, until your inner landscape shifts from toil and want to the overflow of grace and the cadence of divine order. You need to regard your wealth as already deposited in the unseen, poised for unveiling, activated not by exertion, but by statute. Picture your provision like rain amassed in heavy clouds, weighty with your name, waiting solely for faith's command to descend. Abandon the self-image of the striver, the conqueror, the runner. Adopt the stance of the one who calmly calls abundance, inhaling the certainty that completion already exists. The former portrait of the overexerted self, the runner, the anxious counter, the viewer of balances with dread, must melt away. That persona sprang from fear, and fear generates nothing. It merely blocks creation's current. It sets fire to the bridge linking spoken decree and visible outcome. It severs faith's filament. The instant you assent to fear, the circuit snaps, and the image of plenty dissipates. Yet when you sustain a calm vision of wealth like a gardener trusting the hidden seed, resisting the urge to dig it up when you speak your word, and permit the law to work, the bridge reappears. The current resumes, the image fortifies, and reality inevitably conforms. This is not fantasy. It is intentional architecture. The landscape before you is the tangible echo of the subconscious faith condensed into substance-rehearsed affirmations translated into events. Thus, start anew, not with speech alone, but with sight. Picture yourself accepting with ease. Envision funds moving smoothly, invoices cleared ahead of time, necessities lavishly met, longings answered in divine sequence with overflow besides. And as you picture, continue to speak. Everything I speak in faith must manifest. That sentence names the law. Allow this assertion to carry weight, to contour your days, to erase grievance before it forms on your tongue. Let it grow so familiar and organic that doubt loses all lodging within. This is self-reprogramming. This is mind renewal. It is the threshold at which you stop asking if it will occur. You understand it already has, and you proceed toward its outward unveiling of what Spirit previously decreed. Continue to speak while you envision. Refuse to be jostled by postponements, clamor, or spectacles. Allow the inner cinema to screen abundance, and the external scene will synchronize. You are not in suspension. You are in alignment, and alignment invariably comes before appearance. This is the law of divine provision, a holy axiom declaring that supply arises not from persons, posts, or productivity, but from the invisible source that formed you, breathed into you, and courses through you, constant, exact, and untouched by material delusions. You do not subdue provision, you attune to it. You do not coerce it, you open to it. Convinced it already is, already circulates in the unseen, already advances toward you along obvious roads and secret corridors. The source never depletes, never collapses, never loses sight of you. Still, this sacred statute is frequently misunderstood, buried beneath religious guilt, social embarrassment, economic imprinting, and ancestral dread, leading many to behave as though God were a reluctant benefactor, as if Spirit required coaxing to release what has long been bestowed. Numerous people suppose provision must be pried from heaven, as though God hoarded it to measure merit. I assure you this notion is untrue. It is not of the divine. It is absent from truth's statutes, merely mortals' fear cast onto God's countenance. This mirage must be abandoned, consumed, and released. The law of divine supply speaks plainly. In spirit, there is no scarcity. The hidden treasury knows no shortage, and divine provisioning does not fluctuate. There are only two states, circulation or blockage, and the stoppage never resides at the spring, but within the conduit. Fear clogs it, doubt clogs it. Withholding the truth clogs it. Yet supply remains boundless, the vault stands open, the river runs high. The moment you recall this, ceasing to chase money as a rare quarry and viewing it instead as a divine servant awaiting your summons, you step back into alignment with law. This law answers not to exertion, but to utterance, and the utterance must be authentic, steady, and reiterated until it silences the choruses that demand you labor harder, suffer longer, or bide some perfect hour. No, beloved, this is not the doctrine of supply. The authentic gospel declares, "Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, and prove me now, herewith saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." Do you grasp it? The instruction is not to plead. It is to test, to encounter the law operating. Speak courageously, affirm steadily, and conduct yourself as one residing beneath open skies, because they truly are open. God does not hesitate, and spirit does not stall. The delay belongs to humans who cling to appearances, who speak timorously, and linger at the surface, rather than affirm from the core. Yet when you speak truthfully, assert provision as assured, and shift your gaze from persons to principle, the conduit clears. Once the channel is unobstructed, provision flows. This is not caprice or sentiment, it is statute. And the statute asserts speak truth and supply streams, announce the unseen, and it must materialize. Move to faith's cadence, and the vault responds to your call. This is the law of divine supply, active even now. The only question is whether your speech frees the current or blocks it. Choose today, decree today, confirm today, and the heavens will reply. Here is the phrase to voice the decree, to release the key that rotates within the unseen vault, the line that sets the law in motion and parts channels beyond expectation. All the money I need now appears by divine law. Speak it plainly, yet resolutely. Keep speaking until it surpasses affirmation and hardens into assurance, until it thrums in your very bones, a quiet undertone behind every thought, the concealed engine powering your movement. Let this sentence operate as your sacred gravity, drawing form from formlessness, transferring in holiness money from the divine mind into your tangible affairs. Speak it as a rightful claim, not as a plea. Voice it with relaxed certainty, not strain. Use it not to acquire, but to unveil what is already yours. And when fear orders you to inventory shortages, measure delays, and examine voids, repeat it once more strongly. Announce the phrase that cancels postponement, breaks the mirage of not enough, quiets the world's clamor, and tunes your entire being to fulfillment's wavelength. All the money I need now appears by divine law. The hour has come to renounce the speculative future. Cease saying, "One day I will have. Perhaps it might happen, I am attempting to believe." Such language is lukewarm and brittle, unplugged from source. Divine statute functions in the present. Provision is a present tense reality. Spirit answers decisiveness, precision, and a steady voice. Should you pronounce this sentence each morning before confronting figures, and each night before sleep etches fresh directives into the subconscious? If you speak it in the lot, the shop, at the table, in the car, while strolling, resting, breathing, the worn mental rails will loosen. Scarcity cycles will end, anxiety's ruts will level, and a new internal rhythm will arise, a rhythm that recognizes summons and receives. For this phrase is more than statement. It is magnetism, holy ardor, and the law itself in motion. Let the sentence reverberate within until your cells, your patterns of thought, and your anticipations move in step with its reality. All the money I need now appears by divine law, not through luck, coercion, or manipulation, but through divine statute. This is grace. It appears precisely on time, by avenues arranged before you even recognized the need. It arrives through alignment and articulation, for the vault never stays sealed to one who walks in spiritual inheritance. Declare it now and continually. Speak the key, and the treasure unlocks. This is law. This is truth. Let it be your directive. Refuse entry to rival voices dissenting creeds or contrary maxims. You are appointed the herald of provision. Your speech is a gilded span joining heaven's vault to earthly appearance. Speak, and it shall be. Decree, and it arrives. The next task is to rebuild the self-conception that in secret adopted lack as identity rather than occasional condition. Up to this point, the problem was not merely missing funds. Scarcity settled into patterns of thought, bodily bearing emotional rhythm and everyday language. Want wore itself as an unseen garment stitched into self-image by long repetition and tacit emotional contracts. Words formed with the expectation of refusal. Frustration felt prescripted. Circumstances were entered already rehearsing rejection, assuming not enough, preparing for another postponement, another deficit, another not yet. I assert that identity is counterfeit and misaligned with your divine blueprint. It is an overlay, a performance, a masquerade. It is a costume passed down by anxious, constricted, prudent, even well-meaning voices that never recognized heaven's provision as already yours, already present, answering those who discard the mask of want and speak from the reality of divine supply. The spiritual pipeline never fractured, was never sealed by heaven, and has not been shut by spirit. What you face is congestion, fabricated beliefs, and untested assumptions about identity, possibility, and the channels through which wealth comes. These notions must be rinsed by the clean water of truth, thoroughly, steadily, and again until the current resumes and the sediment of fear, guilt, strain, and role-playing dissolves, leaving the channel open, assured, and unburdened. The method: speak the new word both outwardly and inwardly. Repeat, all the money I need now appears by divine law. Continue until this line stops being a declaration and becomes your self-description, not a figure begging rescue, but a person conscious that source moves through you, toward you, and as you. Dismantle the habit of playing the needy role, the identity that waits, worries, and scans for omens. That face was cast by fear. I quit narrating shortages and started labeling plenty. I stopped rehearsing hardship and began announcing the goodness already present. I spoke in the cadence of a millionaire prior to visible funds. I spent with confidence in the vault beyond the scene. I gave as someone convinced the river cannot run dry. I moved in dominion not through strain, but through statute. And when statute is honored by word, by steady cadence, and by unwavering conviction, it answers. This is not feeling or luck. It is divine order available to all who speak from it. Live by this truth and discard the weary lie that money belongs to a select few and weighs down everyone else. The world never bestowed dominion on you, thus it cannot revoke it. You arrived carrying it. Speak and act in harmony with this permitting law to translate the unseen into form. Now is the moment to exercise the language of wealth, not as a facade or fantasy, but as the deliberate discipline of one who aligns with spiritual reality and relinquishes the bleak lexicon of lack. Start immediately. Affirm, I now spend, receive, and give as steward of divine wealth. Speak it unhesitatingly, not as an experiment, but as a daily assertion that trades the architecture of fear for the consciousness of unhindered circulation. The millionaire in spirit does not stockpile. A caretaker of the divine does not heap up from avarice. A soul wealthy in spirit does not scrutinize every cost with tight fists and a strained face. It speaks from flow, from the river's movement, not from a stagnant store. It gives knowing the current is continuous. It spends recognizing money as divine substance in circulation. It receives free from guilt about good. Place this statement upon your head like a diadem: I now spend, receive, and give as steward of divine wealth. This is neither wastefulness nor theatrical largesse, but a spiritual stance, the dismantling of scarcity speech that burdens every exchange, casting purchases as peril gifts, as forfeiture, and receipts as deficit. That worn vocabulary must fade, and its frequency be cleansed, since genuine wealth lives not in figures, but in the identity of one confident in source. When you voice this line daily, crossing a storefront, unfolding your wallet, tapping your card, affirming, "I am steward of divine wealth," you assert that you are more than an economic actor. You are an agent of spiritual circulation. You are not merely spending currency, you are directing divine substance. You do not dispense from a private cache, but from heaven's storehouse. You do not receive by accident, but by alignment. Reiterate this until it feels native, until the former self nervous over every coin dissolves, until the fretful spender, the ashamed receiver, and the reluctant giver disappear. Persist until your finances resemble worship, until giving registers as enlargement and receiving reads as a feature of the divine design. Once this truth becomes your habitual tongue and you speak from dominion, you will witness how quickly the unseen takes form. You will observe money answering not to anxiety, but to pattern, not to toil, but to sacred stance. Speak now, and daily I now spend, receive, and give as steward of divine wealth. Allow this word to reshape your world. For the hour has come to dismiss the final shadow guilt, that stubborn haze rising whenever you taste joy in spending, calm in receiving, and steadiness in maintaining abundance. Guilt undermines wealth. It is the stealthy thief that trails your affirmations and hisses. Do you merit this? Is it just? Have you exceeded bounds? That voice is not your own. It is a cultural echo entranced by scarcity, schooled to think wealth is capped. Money is a sliced pie, and your share steals from someone else. Yet I say divine substance is boundless and provision is limitless. Heaven's treasury obeys neither human calculus, nor social ranking, nor comparison. Its movement is legal law answering to consciousness. And consciousness increases through repetition, through sight, and through unafraid acceptance. It is time to tear guilt up by the roots. Decline to feel at fault for being supplied, favored, or satisfied. End the apologies for abundance. Do not contract to comfort others. Do not stall your manifestation due to the antique refrain that ownership is unspiritual. That notion is a deception. You were not born to suffer as virtue's emblem, nor to withhold as a badge of humility. You were not sent to contort yourself into the pattern of collective lack. You came to reveal divine abundance. And this appears not only in having, but in sustaining free of guilt, spending free of fear, receiving free of regret, and circulating with the gladness of one certain that the current is everlasting. This becomes fully real only when the reconditioning is complete, when every exchange of giving and receiving becomes a festival of alignment with the divine. When every transaction preaches, every purchase affirms, and every coin serves as a disciple of the spoken line, I now spend, receive, and give as steward of divine wealth. Let him continue repeating it until guilt evaporates, until the body consents entirely, until the nervous system ceases to flare at a bill or at the prospect of expansion. Let him persist until wealth no longer appears hostile to peace, but emerges as the expression of purpose. He was not born to stockpile in terror, nor to quiver. He was fashioned not to beg, but to command. He was formed not to shoulder guilt, but to bear glory. Divine wealth is that glory embodied, the mirror of sacred order, the proof of the word's power of identity embraced of the hour when the shame-stitched self dies and the truth, formed self, rises to rule. Let him voice and embody this truth so that guilt dissipates for good. Wealth is not a mistake. The mistake is to keep talking as a pauper. Let him speak truth, live with ease, circulate with joy, and permit the unimpeded stream of divine substance. Delay is not sacred, it is a misalignment with truth. It is a mental deferral bred by doubt, fear, wavering, and littleness masquerading as patience. Heaven is never sluggish. Spirit does not tarry. God does not waver over the timing of good. Delay issues not from the heights, but from the heart. It sprouts from unsaid words, unexpressed faith, unopened thresholds, unowned truths, and unlived selves. It is time's mirage taunting spirit's eternity. It is the ego's sedative persuading you to await the right moment to get ready to seek ideal settings, while law, like a quiet engine, idles beside you prepared to move. Divine timing is not postponement. It is exactness. It is the orchestration of the infinite flowing through unobstructed channels, answering the pitch of consciousness, forming the visible at faith's velocity. Faith does not stall, compute, or bargain with appearances. It speaks now, acts now, receives now, because spirit inhabits the present. You are trained to idolize waiting and to mistake hesitation for surrender. Yet the instant you yield to truth, all shifts heaven's supply openings. The sole genuine delay is unbelief. The lone delay is muteness. The lone barrier is the word withheld. Let him announce, now what is mine cannot be delayed. He will watch postponement vanish like fog under dawn. This is ruled by the law of divine timing, not human patience as resignation, but the heavenly order that coordinates all in perfect accord. When alignment is whole, thought is clean, the conduit clear, and the word resolved, divine timing does not await outward shifts, it initiates from within. Divine timing concerns the clearing of internal discord, the holy calibration of thought utterance and expectancy. Many misread this law, taking silence as absence and mistaking spiritual exactness for divine reluctance. They conclude God is slow, when in reality they have muted authority, disrupted the process by fear, severed the signal by doubt, and hit pause in spirit with lines like, maybe someday, who can tell, I'll attempt. Divine timing is not delay. It is the moment the unseen is authorized to appear because he at last said yes without remainder. It is the sanctified click of heavenly gears meshing when his frequency matches the thing requested. That frequency is generated by speech, by repetition, by cadence, and by steadfast decree. When he says, come now, it is mine now, I walk in it now, not as wish, but as law time's mechanism stirs and alignment unfolds beyond his sight or strategy. Doors swing wide by themselves. People shift into appointed positions. Postponements once thought immovable vanish at once, not due to elapsed time, but because truth was voiced and the word traveled unimpeded. Divine timing is never inert. It is precise. It is not sluggish. It is holy. It is not arbitrary. It is lawful. And the statute states, before they call, I will answer. Provision stands prepared before the petition is voiced. Before desire hardens into shape, the way is already cleared. Yet nothing appears in his field until he consents to receive, until the mind is cleansed of delay, and every suspicion ends that his good is for now. Not for later, not for a hazy future, not for after he has earned, demonstrated, or looked holier, but now. Divine law keeps no clock. It answers only to the verb uttered in present power. Let him cease labeling delay as divine, cease decorating waiting. Cease mistaking his resistance for God's timing. Heaven's timepiece ticks to faith's rhythm. Let him announce now, rely now, and stand now. Then what already exists in readiness will show itself exactly as his word aligns. Let him say, what is mine cannot be delayed. It rushes to me now under grace. This is law, and law never dithers. It is imperative to drop the saga of delay, the tale of scarcity, the fiction that is good is far off, concealed, deferred, or contingent on others' consent. The longer he sustains that story, the more he cements a false tableau, a sluggish universe, a stingy God, a good dependent on begging and chasing. That is neither the way of truth nor the dialect of law. He must articulate what is real in spirit before it crystallizes in matter. Let him affirm, with calm certainty, what is mine cannot be delayed. It rushes to me now under grace, and wield this line as a shield against every fable of postponement. Let him repeat it when circumstances whisper, not yet. When thresholds appear to shut, when calculation argues that everything requires years, that wealth creeps, that success climbs by sweat and delay, let his voice overtake prudence and outpace former echoes and frustrations. Law is not shackled to time, and God keeps no calendar. Provision abides in eternity. It does not wait to be fabricated, but to be claimed not through force, but through speech. Not through exertion, but through expectancy. Not through pleading, but through a consciousness fixed in the present, declaring, it is here, it is now, it is mine. This is no daydream, it is internal rule, not avoidance, but intentional architecture. As he cleaves to this truth, he dismantles the screenplay of delay that was never his. Delay is a mental contract, a timbre murmuring not yet. But when he answers with now, the current sparks, time arranges itself, the sacred choreography accelerates. What looked like years compresses into weeks. What seemed far arrives swiftly because he has stopped repelling his good with wavering speech. Manifestation springs not from waiting, but from decree, and decree resonates in spirits present. Let him proclaim, now what is mine cannot be delayed. It rushes to me now under grace even prior to feeling prepared, until old habits fracture, and his eyes unfix from the clock, recalling that divine order tracks truth, not human time, and truth outruns appearances. Let him say, live, and let what is already mine hasten to meet me upon the breath of my word. Now arrives the last breaking of the spell, the clearing of ancient roots in that inward posture that mistakes resistance for patience, hesitation for prudence, and fear for wisdom. It is time to cleanse awareness of every picture of fretful waiting, to stop walking the halls of life, picturing the door's hour, to end the vigil of clasped hands and tired heart, repeating the mirage. Maybe not yet. That doctrine carved itself into human subconsciousness over centuries. It is a portrait of postponement dressed up as devotion, a creed of deferred good cloaked as humility, a worship of time substituted for fidelity to truth. That picture must be smashed, that persona traded. He is neither waiter nor beggar, nor a soul hanging in a void until heaven recalls him. He is a herald of truth, a doer of the word, a child of the now. And now is the only tense spirit knows. Real reconditioning starts here, not with striving, but with the practice of clear speech and sight. He must regard manifestation as already formed, already moving, already glimmering like a fast train entering the platform, requesting no permits, asking no proofs, simply arriving with momentum for words, have already launched it. His task is not to stall the process by doubt, but to ready himself to receive, to clear room, and to voice unconquered. What is mine cannot be delayed. It rushes to me now under grace in perfect ways. Let him echo these words until the body settles, until breathing lengthens, until the frequencies of doubt wavering and delay lose all shelter within, leaving simple quiet trust that all proceeds in perfect meter, and that delay was never wholly only unbelief in costume. Let him visualize the good arriving on cue. Let him conduct himself as one already in possession. Let him decide as one already upheld. Let him order his hours by faith rather than fear. And whenever the old picture of delay reappears, whenever he is tempted to narrate waiting excuse, pause, or idolize process instead of commanding outcome, let him state the new line again, not as rote, but as reality. My divine time is now. The door opens now. What I seek seeks me now. I no longer wait. I receive. Then the charm breaks. The pent-up waters move, the current returns, because he stopped feeding time and began feeding truth. And truth never lags. It travels to the cadence of a brave word. Let it unfold now. Let it be his. Let it arrive quickly, for it has been readied from the start. What was missing was only the recovered tone of command. Money functions as a servant, and a servant answers the director's voice. It does not set the course. It complies. It does not originate motion. It reacts to it. It carries no personal will and no private agenda apart from the energy and instructions voiced by one who speaks with spiritual authority. Uncommanded money drifts. Unguided, it gravitates toward fear's summons, doubt's frequency, hesitation's noise, and confusion's echo. Money is neither master, nor mind, nor identity. It is a reliable servant, and servants require instruction, clarity about destination, function, and manner. Money is not magnetized by scarcity. It is stirred by command. It does not heed fear, but responds to presence. Presence arises from faith spoken aloud. That faith walks into a bare room and proclaims abundance. Standing before an invoice, it declares divine surplus. Facing a shut door, it states, "Another opens for me by divine law." This is not feigning reality. It is authoring it by the only instrument that truly governs the word. Let him declare now, even if his voice quivers, I am the voice that money obeys. I command it with faith. I send it with clarity. I receive it without fear. Such a concise formula can alter the atmosphere and reorder his affairs. Luck does not track the shrewd strategist or the tireless analyst. It gravitates to the resonance of faith. Faith is invariably courageous. It speaks before evidence, it speaks with firmness, it speaks reality. And when truth is voiced, it calls forth its embodiment. Let him speak, and the servant will quickly respond. This describes the law of command in action, an enduring, unfailing spiritual statute etched into creation's unseen fabric. It answers not to toil, but to utterance. By this law, the unmoored are set apart from the fulfiller, the drifter from the steward, the waiter from the knower. The law of command is no metaphor or lyric. It is the operative science of spirit. Its premise is precise. Spirit answers conviction. Substance crystallizes under authority, and divine order emerges for the one bold enough to speak as though completion were already achieved. Not with wavering, nor with alibis or courteous timidity, but with lucid decree. When the centurion told Jesus, "Only speak a word, and my servant shall be healed," he acknowledged this law. He grasped that authority issues from position, not loudness, that power travels by word, not by force. All forms and resources, each condition, every seeming delay or detour, these yield to a voice that commands with resolve. And how often has he muttered when he ought to have declared? How often has he pleaded when he should have issued orders? How many times has he narrated conditions instead of decreeing design? Hence, the incompleteness of his world, he treated the law delicately instead of standing decisively within it. He voiced himself as a visitor, not an heir. He forgot that law answers alignment, not sentiment, that it is moved by dominion, not distress. Dominion reveals itself as speech. Thus, the law of command instructs what he will not assert with certainty, he will not sustain in fact. What he shies from naming, he will hesitate to receive. What he refuses to affirm is deferred by his silence. Therefore, he must speak boldly, summon the unseen into appearance, pronounce the decree, and stop treating the invisible as dubious. It is not dubious. The invisible is compliant, but it answers only to spirit's clear voice, not to mental clamor, nervous pleading, or conditioned belief. It heeds the purity of command alone. Hence, he must state, I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me. Not later, not when it seems sensible, not upon others' permission now. Fortune neither stalls, nor mishears, nor deliberates. It merely awaits the sound of faith. And when that voice resounds, obedience is immediate. That is precisely how the law functions. This is truth. This is command's power. Let him put it into practice. He must stand up in speech, not sporadically, but as a daily discipline. He must take his place as one who orders and speaks moving divine substance with a convinced tone. Let him persist until certainty becomes his breathing's cadence, his stride's stability, and the settled calm within his chest. I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me. Let him voice this prior to any sensation of prosperity, prior to numerical validation, prior to visible openings. Let him speak without exhibits, understanding that the utterance itself is the evidence, and the remainder will configure by law. He must no longer talk like a spectator awaiting outcomes. He is not audience, but cause voice source. And when he affirms, I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me, it is not arrogance. It is alignment, the tuning of his speech to his divine identity. He takes his place as a beacon rather than a drifter. He stops echoing and becomes origin. He stops reacting and begins governing. This is not mere wanting. It is commission. He directs money not to appease fear, but to accomplish purpose. Not to inflate ego, but to extend divine order. Not to persuade others, but to ratify the law. And once law is voiced in steady cadence and repeated until carved into the bedrock of being, it must comply. Let him neither falter nor turn back, neither attach conditions nor soften it with if it is meant to be. On the contrary, let him speak with steady authority and holy respect, mindful of his role within the order of spirit. I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me. Allow this declaration to burn away prior timidity, dissolve, reluctance, and quiet the inner whisper that still seeks approval to receive. He does not require permission. He requires alignment, accord between his word and the law. When he speaks from that union, money no longer stands apart. It recognizes the tone, answers the breath, and organizes itself according to the precision of his decree. This becomes his new vocabulary. This becomes his habitual speech. This becomes his consecrated task. He speaks, and money responds. He speaks, and movement returns to the flow. He speaks, and divine intention finds its channel. Let him speak continually, command with resolve, and declare until he conforms to the likeness of the one whose strength rests not in striving, but in utterance. Let him proclaim, I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me. Then witness the unseen take form at the resonance of his faith. Allow the reconditioning to reach further past intellect, past recollection, past the routines that quietly bound his sense of self to scarcity and wired his body to guilt. For here stands the last stronghold, the fear of holding more, the subtle discomfort of becoming one who need not strive, the concealed resistance to abundance, not from absence of desire, but from an inner lesson that taught him having. Much appears to endanger too much. Fear of judgment, of loosening bonds, of appearing less modest, of being misconstrued, of ascending while others do not. This quiet fear has lived inside like an unwanted tenant, tinting choices, murmuring doubts, and dulling affirmations, so they would not be too rapid, too daring, too accurate. Thus he delayed his own good, often unaware. To receive free of guilt, to command free of fear, and to flourish without apology requires releasing the last fragments of the former self that felt protected by struggle. Yet that former identity must be released. A child of spirit cannot keep the clothing of mere survival. He cannot order riches to serve divine purpose, and then once they arrive, hesitate. He cannot speak as a steward and then shrink as a supplicant. He must be thoroughly reprogrammed to hold abundance as peace rather than weight. He must train the body to rest in overflow and teach the heart that being supplied is not selfishness, but sacred stewardship. He must recalibrate his environment until having more is as effortless as breathing, until spending, giving, and permitting money to circulate no longer registers as loss, but as holy movement, divine current through a clean and open channel. This is the transformation from fearing wealth to bearing it, from retreating before money to directing it with authority, from questioning worthiness to realizing he was always appointed to manifest divine abundance in his language, his labor, his accounts, his giving, and his calm assurance. And this occurs not merely through revised ideas, but through renewed proclamations spoken and reiterated until they resonate so profoundly that prior programs of fear and guilt disintegrate and are exchanged for embodied truth. He must affirm, I now command riches to serve the divine purpose through me, not as a mere sentence, but as a mode of being. Let him speak it when appearances contradict. Let him say it when the earlier fear revisits. Let him continue until guilt's voice is muted and the voice of dominion stands up. For only one principle can rule. Only one identity can be his governing code. And what he speaks must embody truth and authority, love, free of guilt, power, free of shame, guardianship, free of self-neglect. Let him say it and keep saying it until his body loosens into ease and his soul widens, until abundance once overwhelming becomes familiar ground, until his mind is retrained to command rather than plead, to declare rather than speculate, to uphold rather than panic, until wealth no longer frightens but simply responds. This is his reconditioning. This is his restoration. This marks the dawn of his sovereignty. The authentic millionaire he is meant to be is the one who dares to declare, not the person who merely longs in quiet, nor the one who rushes frantically, nor the one who postpones for better conditions. The millionaire is not born of strain. He is summoned by the word formed by cadence, and invoked by the breath that acknowledges his own sanctity, attunement, and resolve. If he continues to think that wealth begins outside in markets, schooling opportunities, networks, or the locations he has traversed, he lives in reverse, speaking toward a mirror and expecting the reflection to move first before his own countenance shifts. The truth is straightforward. The word molds matter. Tone rouses the millionaire within. A steady, rhythmic, and unashamed decree calls forth the unseen wealth already encoded in him. He does not attempt to become prosperous, nor depend on luck for success, nor wait for omens to claim the identity that produces it. He speaks it now, and by speaking he shapes himself. By declaring he becomes. By affirming he stirs awake what has always dwelt inside. That millionaire aspect has slumbered under fear, hidden beneath reluctance, awaiting consent to emerge. Let him declare, I bring into form the millionaire within me. My voice vibrates at the frequency of wealth. My word is my wealth made visible. Let this be his first utterance each morning, the spark that melts the old image and precedes him wherever he goes. The world may extend opportunities, yet only the word confers identity, and identity governs all. Let him speak not as a waiter of turns, but as one who knows, and let that inner millionaire ascend at the resonance of his voice. This operates under the law of identity, among the most neglected yet most potent spiritual laws. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not as he pleads, nor as he wishes or pretends, but as he inwardly believes himself to be. His spoken and silently repeated self-definition day after day establishes a concrete atmosphere. Reality does not answer merely to his actions, but to the being he accepts himself to be. If he continues to speak as a seeker, a beggar, an adapter, a waiter, he will receive only what harmonizes with that tone. Yet the instant he pivots into his authentic identity, the I am, and speaks out of spiritual awareness, he generates a frequency that appearances cannot withstand. Law answers not to persona toil or strain. It answers to identity pattern resonance and the word sustained by being. And when he declares, I am the wealth of God made visible, he is not indulging in phrasing. He is triggering codes, unveiling the unseen self, summoning the inner millionaire not as fantasy, but as sacred recollection. That self already exists, the expression that never doubted, never feared, never apologized for plenty, that never begged or retreated before prosperity. That being was formed of divine substance and robed in everlasting law, and stays concealed only while he withholds the declaration. Identity is not hunted, it is announced. And when he proclaims, I am the wealth of God made visible, heaven acknowledges it, law activates, and substance answers with exactness. A servant might petition, and a beggar might linger, but an heir declares, the heir walks in the authority of I am. Without that name on his lips, he stands outside the gates of his inheritance. Once he speaks it, however, the inner millionaire assumes shape, and all thoughts, gestures, and environments fall into alignment with that identity. The world then rearranges not by chance or exertion, but by law. Let him affirm, I assume, and walk in this truth. He is not turning into something foreign, he is recalling. He is not pursuing, he is unveiling. His voice functions as the creative instrument. Let him speak, and renewal occurs. Let him speak, and the inner millionaire advances. Now he must undertake what few will not, merely to believe in prosperity, but to speak as prosperity personified, not as a pursuer, but as a revealer. Let him declare, I am the wealth of God made visible. I do not chase money, I reveal it. Let him reiterate this until the urge to chase evaporates, until agitation wanes, until his body ceases to throb with the counterfeit urgency of hurry and attunes to the calm, attractive rhythm of divine disclosure. He is not present to hunt for supply, but to remain in truth and let supply recognize, align, and arrive. He must release the notion that money resides outside in accounts, customers, fashions, superiors, or fickle systems. He must grasp with cadence and profundity that genuine wealth is the resonance in his voice awakened through the word and energized by the I am. He is an expression of divine substance, and by stating his identity, he moves that substance into action. He does not run after things, he uncovers the being that draws them. Let him proclaim, I do not chase money, I reveal it. Let this statement become his daily decree inner climate and reply to every fear that attempts to speak. And if anything appears delayed, let him recall that it is on its way, not secured by merit or force, but by alignment. Law functions with exactness and responds not to scarcity, but to certainty. And such certainty is conceived in the word. Therefore, let him say, I am the wealth of God made visible. Let him persist until his tone changes, his spine rises, and he stops viewing opportunities as rescues, seeing them instead as rightful manifestations. Let him decree until every movement releases the scent of plenty, and want withdraws, unable to remain in his atmosphere. This is no fabrication, no self-importance, no mirage. It is spiritual reality spoken into a world amnesiac of its source. He is not here to perform prosperity, but to reveal it. The way forward is not defense or proof. It is steady affirmation, unapologetic, undiluted by the urge to calm others' anxieties. I am the wealth of God manifested. In this, the law speaks through him. The divine recollects itself in human shape. Truth gains tone and flesh in his utterance. Let him continue speaking freely, abundantly, until nothing else fits his lips. Then the wealth that once looked remote will approach not due to pursuit, but because he speaks as one already joined to it. Speak and bring forth. Speak and receive. Speak and be made whole in the pattern of divine provision. Let the final veil fall the error that his voice is weak, his words mere noise, his affirmations wishes that dissipate. The reality is, this his voice bears divine resonance. Each faith-filled word commands spiritual substance, which reorders his environment, shifts what appeared fixed, and summons into form what has awaited at the frontier of visibility. However, if he still speaks as the former self, if his tongue trembles with anxiety, and his declarations resemble frail petitions rather than assertions of divine authority, his surroundings will mirror that frequency. He must therefore speak from the fullness of identity, not with vocabulary alone, but with the force that undergirds it, with tone, cadence, and assurance. Let him discipline his voice until it sounds like truth rather than theater, like certainty rather than distress. Let the inner millionaire express in completeness, not shards, speaking consistently, not intermittently, informing his writing, his conversations, and even the quiet dialogue of his own mind. Renewal is not confined to ideas. It rests in the holistic vibration he carries through the world, a resonance molded by repetition, cadence, sound, and consecrated speech uttered so steadily that the body learns trust, the mind lines up, and outer life begins to accord. With every declaration, I am the wealth of God made visible, he etches a fresh channel in the stone of the subconscious. And each time he affirms, "I do not seek money, I reveal it," he loosens the reflex of toil-based dependence and substitutes the frequency of manifestation embodied. Embodiment is indispensable. Silent belief does not suffice. He must articulate, allowing his ears to register his own truth, moving through his hours as someone unable to utter fear, not from cheerful pretense, but because fear has vacated his voice. Let faith, truth, and identity possess his speech until it becomes his sole dialect, until the previous language which excused delay, scarcity, or hesitation feels alien and far away upon his tongue. This is the sign that the reprogramming has taken root. He no longer strives to feel rich, he emanates it. Prosperity becomes his breath, his vocabulary and wealth answers to the signal, recognizing its sacred origin. Let him speak and his voice becomes a vault. Let him speak and wealth resounds as tone. Let him speak and every former lie melts before the authority of I am. This is his new resonance. This is his new embodiment identity declared to the world, which answers in living abundance. Let his voice be the compass that leads him into manifestation. Let every cell retain the primal truth. Speech is the scepter of authority, and that scepter sits upon his tongue. Let him decree shape and walk in what you have spoken. Now, beloved, the final pattern is given not to rouse emotion, but to anchor conviction. These are not casual phrases to repeat. They are tools of remaking. They are chisels that shape the mind hammers that etch the subconscious radiant workings that cut fresh channels in the bedrock of being until wealth moves from mere belief to embodied living remembrance. Let him speak these words as decree rather than ceremony, as expression of identity rather than petition. Let him repeat them until their sound exceeds fear, until they wipe away the prior self, until they become breath motion cadence, and core God is my immediate constant and radiant supply. Allow this line to christen his new life, dispelling the illusion that provision hinges on persons striving or hours. This is not poetry. It is bedrock of the divine. Great sums of money come to me now under grace. Let him refuse the posture of scavenging and the belief in crumbs. Let him anticipate the magnificent not by insisting, but by resonance, not through coercion, but through harmony. Money moves not due to harder striving, but due to concord with divine order. I spend, give, and receive as a steward of divine wealth. In this manner, he proceeds fearless before bills steady, before obligations unembarrassed in generosity. He conducts himself as the conduit through which money moves, circulates, and responds. I am immune to fear to delay and to the illusion of lack. This statement forms his renewed spiritual immunity. Fear finds no entry. Postponement cannot mislead. Appearances cannot divert him from confidence in abundance. He carries antibodies of spirit tempered by the word. All he seeks already belongs to him in the unseen. He does not hunt, he recollects. He does not battle, he reawakens. He does not pursue, he reveals. The treasure lies not ahead, but within. His words are bullion, his voice the vault that secures it. Speech is not an afterthought. The mouth is the instrument, the tongue, the trigger, the voice, the consecrated gate. Let him speak with authority, with resonance, with the potency of law. And now comes the sovereign decree, the seal, the groundwork, the heartbeat that alters everything. I am wealth. I speak, and so it is. Let this pronouncement reverberate through his frame, dissolving what is outworn, becoming his inward gospel. He is not merely becoming, he is. He is not attempting, he declares. In the instant he speaks, fulfillment proceeds, for law is exact, spirit is not tardy, and the word never returns empty. Let him assert it now and daily until the contours of his word shape the whole of life. Let the world behold his rising through the vigor of his voice, his cadence, and his truth. He is the sign. He is the divine millionaire. He is the breathing voice of celestial abundance. Speak, and it becomes. I now proceed to join spiritual law with market psychology, for the language that calls forth wealth likewise shapes collective sentiment. Whoever governs the word governs inner cadence, and whoever holds cadence refuses to sway with the crowd's emotional surf. On trading floors in Madrid or Barcelona, across expos, workplaces, and digital venues, the masses swing from fear to elation, yet those who speak from truth stay steady, for their reference point is not the day's chart, but the unchanging law. The crowd, mesmerized by headlines and whispers, runs. The heir, aligned with the word, walks. The multitude answers to noise. The heir answers to decree. The many purchase stories. The heir chooses from identity. The first axiom of this union is this: you are not a quote, not a trend, not a metric. You are the voice that forms substance. Market psychology notes that humans overreact in fear on the way down and overreach in confidence on the way up. Spiritual law affirms that your provision does not swing, it streams. If your tongue swings, your life swings. If your tongue holds, your world holds. It is irrelevant how loudly the world cries. What counts is the tone of your reply. Stability is not mere strategy. It is an identity anchored by the word. I am the provider and guardian of the divine flow, says the one who will not be toyed with by headlines. Train yourself to detect when the mind wants to narrate high and lowest fate. That is mirror bias deciding who you are by gazing at numbers. The law of identity precedes it. I am the wealth of God made visible. The mirror may show movement, but your word paints the portrait. Analysts catalog biases: loss aversion, confirmation, bias, herd behavior. I say this: each bias springs from a sentence left unchallenged. Loss aversion. The covert sentence is, I can be reduced. Replace it with, nothing reduces me, for my supply issues from the invisible. Confirmation bias. The covert sentence is, my fragile self must be protected by agreeable data. Replace it with, I am complete in God. I pursue truth, not mere comfort. Herd effect. The covert sentence is, I do not trust my own voice. Replace it with, my word is a scepter. I rule my atmosphere. If you want the law to work on your behalf in ordinary hours, institute a simple, non-negotiable rhythm. Root word identity upon waking before news invoices or messages declare, I am the wealth of God made visible. My supply is constant, immediate, and perfect. Bridge word intention. Prior to decisions, meetings, purchases, or sales, affirm I act under grace and in divine order. What I do expands the purpose. Seal word maintenance at day's end. Declare. Everything I have touched prospers under grace. What is mine cannot be delayed. It rushes to me now. Markets keep hours open, swing, and close. You keep rhythms, root bridge, and seal. Whoever respects these rhythms stops operating from anxiety and begins to live from dominion. And dominion is not a quote, it is a stance. Many disrupt the flow not by poor techniques, but by habitual phrases that condition the body for alarm. Expressions such as too expensive, hard, tense, always risky set barbs in the subconscious and tether it to strain. I am not instructing you to reject prudence. I am instructing you to refine the tone. Exchange too expensive for assessing value and purpose. Exchange hard for demanding yet possible under grace. In place of always risky, declare active discernment guides my steps. The body relearns to breathe where it once seized. And as the body settles, the mind becomes attentive. As the mind attends, law proceeds in silence, free of interference. Remember this, the fountain never fails, the conduit does. To cleanse the conduit, bring word, vision, and deed into alignment so that passage becomes clear and unbroken. Word, unwavering decree spoken with stability and settled authority. Image, a steady inner picture of effortless circulation and unblocked movement. Action gestures that match the declaration behavior that embodies the picture you hold. Do not say, I receive with ease, only to crease your brow at the register. Do not announce, I give as a steward of divine wealth, and then while giving, apologize to life itself. Inconsistency generates static. Creation heeds resonance, and nothing resounds more clearly than agreement among speech, posture, and action. Repeat with me. My channel is clean. My word is clear. My gesture confirms my faith. The flow moves through me without resistance. Emotional scarcity is not healed merely by inflow. It is healed by honor. To honor a bill is to acknowledge that a service has served you. To honor a price is to acknowledge the labor, intelligence, and time embedded within it. To honor yourself is to refuse to sell beneath your consciousness of worth. Honor elevates your vibration to abundance. Belittling reduces your measure. Those who diminish themselves to appease others purchase shortage. Those who honor what is true purchase expansion. Prior to every payment institute, a brief litany: breathe, bless, and decree. I pay in gratitude. Money circulates and returns multiplied under grace. Mere seconds recalibrate the body. The body shifts the tone, and the tone subtly reshapes the world around you.